All you fancy data scientists out there, I've got the real rock star here with me. I've got Deepak Warrier, who's the chief data scientist at BlackBuck. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for the
How
opportunity.
are you?
Great, doing great.
You know, I love BlackBuck because they have 300k trucks, 60k fleet owners. They're trying to define data problems in the Indian logistics space. By the way, guys, if logistics succeeds, India's dream of becoming a $5 trillion economy is a possibility, and Deepak will tell us how. Deepak, you have to tell us a little bit about your history. You've been a data scientist as a term is very new.
New, exactly.
But you've been in operations research for a very long time. Quickly, where were you before this?
I think the overarching theme has always been building decision support systems. Right, that's the way I look at data science. The data science to me is the science of decision making, right? And that has been around, right? It's not data science, as you rightly mentioned, is a new term, but it's been around, right? So I my formative years post my PhD in operations research was at American Airlines, so a transportation company, and in some sense it's a homecoming right now back to BlackBuck. But that's where I started my career, solving, and anybody who has studied OR or in optimization, I think airlines were the pioneer in adopting those problems. So large scale crew scheduling, large scale fleet management problems. That's where I started my career. Building large-scale decision support systems to handle weather disruptions, handle pricing, or handle operational challenges. I think post that, 2012 is when I moved back to India.
Greater opportunity because, obviously you didn't join transportation immediately.
No, I think...
You went to an e-commerce company in between. And
I was heading data sciences for Myntra.
Okay.
And then now it's been 9+ months at BlackBuck.
What's the experience like? For me, trucking is a lifeline of our economy. 90% of it is unorganized.
Yes.
Right? It's not disorganized, but unorganized.
Unorganized, exactly.
And a lot of money flows through that ecosystem.
Yes.
And drivers struggle with the lack of data.
Yeah.
And especially the agents who also give them, trips.
The brokers,
right? They don't have enough data out there.
Were
we shooting in the blind till now?
No, I think actually that would be unfair. I think there's a lot of local knowledge, and that's really what AI is about, right? There's a lot about it's not saying that humans are not able to make decision. I think they're able to make decision, but as the data increases, I think the significant data loss in trying to assimilate all of that. And
typically, how much does a fleet owner handles how many trucks? The multitude of trucks.
There are different types of small fleet owners, large scale fleet owners, but on an average 5+. Fleet owner is
okay, so you came on board 9 months ago.
Yep.
And when you spoke to Rajesh, obviously, the founder, what were the problem statements did he ask you to define, or what did you look at it as? Did you come and see the data and said, okay, let me clinically approach it like this? What was the previous approach?
I think this probably goes to everybody. I think who's trying to set up a data science organization, and especially in a startup where it's very volatile. I think it's one thing which we did right, and kudos to the leadership team at BlackBuck is sharply defining problem statements. I think it's very important that we are very clear that there are 1 or 2 critical problem statements that we define upfront, right? So it's problem statement driven for me, like how core is that problem to the org, and that's how we go about, right? So when I joined BlackBuck, it's about we are building this tech-enabled marketplace, and marketplace is beautiful, right? Because a lot of complex decision making. So the charter is what kind of constructs you need to build, what kind of data constructs, what are the right algorithms, what are the trade-offs being made, how do you like frame these problems. I think that was the very overarching kind of definition for data science.
Role of the data scientist is to be crystal clear in his thoughts.
Yep.
It's constant experimentation.
Yes.
You started off a POC, small POC here in BlackBuck.
Yep.
You picked a few centers.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that experiment? How many trucks did you pick as an experiment? What did that experiment tell you? And before you scaled it up?
Yeah. So as I said, what we're trying to build is it's a tech-enabled marketplace, right?
Correct.
And for the way we went about doing it is really this machinery has to be like, can we build this machinery in one part of the network, right? So we picked the Northwest Corridor.
Okay.
That's like primarily Gujarat, ports in Gujarat to rice mills in Haryana and Western UP, Punjab, right? So that's the corridor we picked, partially because I think the data was also in the right scale at which the inferences which we make from the algorithms would scale across the country. So the idea was, can I build the machinery? Can we build as a team the machinery at Northwest Corridor? And then it's a matter of just replicating across the country. So we picked probably 1,000+ trucks, across these lanes in in Gujarat, Haryana and Western UP, right? So that's the kind of corridor we're looking at.
So these 1,000 trucks had GPS data,
Yes,
which you'd collect.
Yes.
Would you also ask the truckers their thoughts? Was there a physical collection of data also on what they thought about a route? Was there a matching of the two?
I think it's primarily from a system design perspective. It was primarily hinging on GPS data, right? Tracking the data, right? And
right. Guys, they were solving a problem which is important. See, on an average, it takes you more than a week to get from Bangalore to Delhi.
Yes.
You know, when the trucker gets to Delhi, he also has to be ensured that he gets a load back to Bangalore.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's a loss for him.
Yes.
And you, as a shipper or a brand, you'd end up paying more, right, for one way.
Yes.
So you're solving the two-way problem in this country.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
what does that do? That improves their lives.
Yeah. So marketplace has two sides, right? There's a demand side and the
supply
side, right? And what we're really trying to do is from us, and at least the way we approached is we believe that in trucking it's a supply-driven marketplace, right? So the core metric which we're trying to do is utilization, right? And via utilization, can I improve the liquidity on the platform, right? And by liquidity, we mean anytime a customer, shipper opens the app, he's able to find a truck and we are able to match him with the right truck and fulfill his demand, right?
Go on.
And for the fleet, I think it's about utilization. And when utilization, the really key metric from a data science and even from a business, it's about the wait time between loads. You know, when he finishes the load, how long does it take for him to get the next load, right? And outside, it could be anywhere to 3 to 5 days, and that's what we want to crash, right? Really bring it down.
So average utilization was how much in India?
So it would be anywhere between, so as I said, we would do more than 2 trips or 3 trips in a month. That's what you're talking about, right? So we want to increase it, right? We want to make it like 3+ trips or 4 trips in a month. And these trips are long, right? We're not talking about
They call, I mean, an average, if it's 3 days, I mean, it's 3 trips, it's about 20 days.
Yep, exactly.
Right? If you can add 1 more week to his life cycle, that means he can pay back his loans.
Exactly.
It's extra money for his family.
Yep,
there's lots of, lots of ancillary items attached to this data science, right? It changes lives, right? You know, what is the most difficult problem with data science in this thing? Did data actually go wrong somewhere, or is it constant experimentation? Because a lot of startups come to me and say that, I've got a data scientist, we've done this, but it's not worked. But you say it's constant experimentation, and you got to keep trying new things.
Exactly.
You want to touch upon that?
I think the point is, I think a little bit of everything, but the key thing is how do you keep it tangible, right? So you iterate, keep on iterating, right? You're everything and keep on evolving all the stack, right? So there is a little bit of unstructuredness in your data. There's a lot of noise. So how do you build models to kind of circumvent the uncertainty? You build algorithms on top of it. Then you go back and build the next layer of V2, but throughout each iteration, you're trying to keep it tangible. That can I drive utilization by in some percentage above, right?
So would you say that 9 months you've done this? What can I expect from BlackBuck in terms of data for the next 18 months or so? What plans have you got? What do you want to achieve as a data scientist?
I think data science is an evolution, right? You're evolving the org, right? So at different stages, you're probably solving more and more advanced problems. That's you're looking at, right? So we are at the beginning of this evolving this machinery, right? Can I have this machinery where I can guarantee that any time a shipper opens his app, I'm able to match him with the right load, at the right truck, at the right truck type,
and the price,
right? The right price, right? So that's the evolution. As I said, the first phase of it is about utilization, because as I said, we believe
it improves
that
their lives. Yes.
The next phase would be about pricing and all of that.
And for that, you probably have to hire more people.
Yes.
Because most of them are 18 to 35 as an audience, and some of them are first time data scientists or aspiring to be data scientists. Where do they begin? What kind of people do you look for?
I think, there's a lot of lack of clarity when one listens to him, hears about data science. For me, I think it's about fundamentally, the way I look at it, having seen it over the years, it's about mathematical modeling and programming. So anybody who has the aptitude to, given a problem, model it in mathematical constructs and is able to program it and be able to kind of deploy it is what I'm looking for. So in that sense, it's not just one discipline, it's an amalgamation of disciplines. So
you want to give them why it's an amalgamation. I earlier asked you, kids ask me, I'm learning statistics, but I don't know software. But you're saying those lines are blurred. You can combine the two.
Yes.
You want to explain why?
So, for example, like in the team, we would have, as I said, the two key constructs are modeling, mathematical modeling, and programming, and that would come from any discipline. It could come from physics, In fact, in my team, we have masters in robotics.
Okay,
and
you have a
masters
robotics
in,
guy.
in physics. So I think anybody who's able to do mathematically model and program it, because in essence you want to integrate it into the stack. You want to integrate it into the product. So you need to be able to deploy these ML algorithms into and integrate it with the engineering stack, right? So those are the skills really what you want to build, right? And there are a lot of building blocks, as I said, a lot of disciplines, a lot of fundamental
what does it take to work with you? What does it take to work with you? Say I've learned C++. Most of our college students learn C++. Maybe fundamentally very good at math, but they haven't applied it well. So how do you know that this student is good? And that, yes, he can work for me.
Sure. I think, at least in my recruiting process, primarily case studies which I give, like can I formulate, I want to see how well he approaches the problem, right? How is he able to kind of, given a real life problem, is he able to kind of formulate it mathematically, right? So the mathematics is what is, both those two dimensions are checked, right? Programming, basic programming skills. Python has been predominant skill set which we look, because I think from ML as well as integration into the engineering stack, it has significant benefits. So we kind of over-index on having Python as a skill set.
So that means if they've learned C++, they come to you. You give them a data real life problem. If they get it right, then you tell them that go learn R and come back, or do you train them in R?
So I think Python has become, I expect
you expect them to know it.
Know it in some sense.
So guys, learn Python before you come to Deepak, right? And obviously you can learn it if they aren't teaching you in college. You can always learn it from YouTube maybe, or from Udemy or Coursera.
I think it's just about working a lot of courses out there to pick up programming. Right?
How do you learn? Do you constantly learn as a data scientist?
I think that's one. Even as a leadership level, you have to continuously if you're a data scientist, you have to keep bridging, because it's evolving at a very fast pace, right? Things that every year something new is being built, right? Be it deep learning and so on.
So talk about it. You're an engineer from REC today. You went to Calicut. REC Calicut, right? So when you came back here, or obviously you went to America, did your PhD? How had technology and data science changed? Had it merged already by 2012?
Not by 2012, but I think in the last 4 or 5 years, I think it has become more functional. I think it's more cohesive between the engineering and the data sciences. I think that is evolved maybe 4 years back. I think data science, how it was the adoption and the expectation. I think now it's much more clarity in terms of how these things go together. What is a seamless kind of transition between an algorithm which it moves from across these different stages.
Fundamental problem. Now going to the startup as a business, they're setting it up, collected some data's on Excel sheet. What do they do with it?
I think the evolution is, you need to first understand, bring all your data together, right? You have to build the data systems, you have to have the data plumbing, so the data is correctly stored, right? And ingested properly. The second thing is about making sense out of this data. You have to significant amount of time is in annotation. For example, for in BlackBuck context, we are trying to understand ETAs, right? We're pretty much building the Google map in a trucking context. Like what is a trucking ETA when a truck moves from A to B, right? And for that, we need to understand the stoppages a truck makes. How much layover does a truck take? Because these are 7 days, so they might stop for a break. They might stop. So every stoppage has to be marked, right? Whether it is a toll tag, we call it the points of interest. So the building block is in structuring the data, making sense out of it. If it's a stoppage during the day, what would be the typical dwell time, right? If it is a toll tag, or if it's a loading location, it's an unloading location, I need to understand what is the typical distribution of unloading times at this particular warehouse versus another warehouse, and that's probably in the same location, right? So fundamental amount of work is done in annotating the data, in structuring the data, adding meaning to the data. These are data which is coming from raw GPS, from raw
so that you got to do these kind of things.
Those are the building blocks even before a data scientist starts looking at it.
So before you bring in a data scientist, do this yourself.
Yes, that's one thing which
the founders can do this. The founders that do this themselves.
I think BlackBuck, again, kudos, we did it right. When I came in, the PY marking, all of that had been at a recent maturity, right?
So it made your job there easier to start with, because there was some raw data which was structured. So that's interesting. So most of them make the mistake of when they do their first rounds, right? They say we have data, so let's bring in a data scientist. Would it confuse the data scientist to just come and if they have to start cleaning it up, that would be a waste of time?
Yes, it would be. I think it's very important, as I said, to bring in at the right stage of the maturity of the org, right? Data has to be at a decent scale. These systems have to be in a certain place, at which point, really the data scientist can take maximum juice out of it, right? So
it's interesting, right? Just to tell you an analogy, guys, if you are a singer, right, and if you have a ordinary guitar player, and if you as a singer grow, you need to understand what kind of musician you bring in along with your journey. It's just probably the same analogy,
exactly.
right? It's interesting. So have you measured things like what is the average speed of the driver? What is the average speed of the Indian trucker?
So it's interesting because we look at to understand. So we look at the driving behaviors through GPS data, right? So we look in order to understand. For example, give you a more tangible example, right? When a stoppage is made at a warehouse, I don't know if it's loaded or unloaded. Right? At some cases, because not all trucks are moving loads, right? And so we really look at the with raw GPS, no other signal. Just I don't have any other context. I'm looking at just the GPS streams coming out of the truck, and I look at before he made the stoppage and after how does he accelerate, right? And so loaded acceleration versus unloaded acceleration, we are trying to figure out via data. And with that, we are able to say, look, this is loaded because when he accelerated, he was unloaded, so he was able to pick up faster. And when he leave the loading location, the acceleration, the rate, the pickup was much different. Right? So via those features, you're trying to predict the context of the stoppage. And we say, look, with 90% confidence, I'm saying that it's a loaded POI, right?
So does data recommend them average speed that they have to maintain?
So one of the things which we build is this whole to make the customer in this context, the customer is the fleet owner. I want to make his that route experience much more efficient. So we do prescribe, what are the optimal routes, right? The n number of routes drivers are taking, right? In our data, we know what is the shortest route, right, from A to B, right? And so if a new driver comes, one of the biggest problems is when a new driver comes into this corridor, he doesn't know what is the optimal route to take, and we are able to prescribe, this is the shortest route in these conditions in this time of the day. So the whole prescription, the route management is something which we own for the fleet owner.
Okay, and average stopover time is?
It depends on different, like in a loading, unloading locations, it could be anywhere to 12 hours.
Wow,
right? 12 to 18 hours, depend on what time he enters. Like we misses, because these warehouses have certain times of operational hours, right? So it depends when he hits the...
You had quite a, cherished career, would you say, in the last 2 decades. It must be very challenging.
I think it's been interesting.
Interesting, and a lot of expectations sometimes.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of different domains. I've seen airlines, I've seen financials and stuff. I think it's different for different, and it's changed also over the time. I think, as I said, transportation. I worked at airlines whereas now when I look at it, it's fundamentally different because there are a lot of sensors data. When I started the American Airlines, we had just started looking at maintenance signals coming from airlines, but now my biggest source of data is telemetry data, is data coming from GPS. So
guys, if you've joined us and if you're watching this, these are the kind of problems that Deepak wants you to solve, right? GPS data, right? And it's already data that's structured, so you can come and apply your mathematical skills. So if they have to apply for BlackBuck, right? Is it
you're hiring, by the way? So
you're hiring. So your team is 20.
Yes.
So you're going to
mix of data scientists and data engineers.
Okay. And to apply, is there an email ID? Would your team put in?
You can just connect me on LinkedIn.
Just go to LinkedIn and just keep it short. Don't confuse him. Just say you're interested and just say what you could do with data. And then probably get called for an interview, maybe. Right? As a data scientist, how do you spend time apart from business and work?
Well, I think, as I said, this what is fascinating about data science is it's an evolving field, right? So you have to keep yourself abreast, right? So unfortunately, most of my time outside of business is also on catching up on the recent developments, be it the deep learning whole, it's been evolving at a very fast pace, right? So a lot of times is still spent on academic or interests, pursuing the bridges.
So it's like you're like a doctor who's constantly skilling himself, or
you have to in this.
What have you been reading of late, technically?
Technically, I think I think from your purpose, I think I can talk about the fundamental books which people
that they can
aspiring data scientists should look at. I can probably recommend some of the good books which you should look at.
That'd be nice.
I think from having come from optimization, I think there's convex optimization by Boyd. convex
convex
optimization
by Boyd.
Integer programming and linear programming.
Integer programming.
Yeah, by Nemhauser. In the ML stream, it's Bishop primarily for pattern recognition and so on and so forth. So those are fundamental books. You keep kind of going back because it's been a while since
the reference books.
Yeah, so you keep referring whenever you're entering and you seem to have forgotten. I keep going back to these books,
to get brush up on the basics.
Yep.
Really, you have to go back.
I think this field, unlike it's a very vast field. As I said, it's a lot of discipline coming together, right? And these have been around for a long time, right? It's not. I think it's just it's because of the new recent advances in computation. I think they're getting more common, but I think these have been around for a while.
I want to ask you one curveball question, and it'll probably be on your favor itself. In India, where there's an expectation from the VC community to give more, businesses have to show returns. Because for you it's like experimentation, understanding the aspects, whatever's going on in the industry, right? It's like you're a storyteller, as I mentioned earlier. Is it limiting that in that given space and time of limited funding, limited time to tell the world that you made it, you have to sometimes constrain yourselves?
Yeah, I think it's challenging, right? In the sense that you really want to create impact, right? We are in an industrial, we are not in an academic setting, right? Any data scientist you're talking about, he's in an industrial setting, right? So you have to be cognizant of the demands of the trade, right? And in that sense, I think the biggest challenge is really understanding which problem to crack first. It's about prioritization, the end problem. So you should not go down a problem just for the sake of that's very challenging. It's very beautiful and from a data science perspective, but does it really create impact? So I think to be successful, to be at the same time be disciplined, be rigorous in your approach. I think it's just about picking the right problems, right? Okay. Which for sure will create impact. And that's why it might be one or two problems. It doesn't have to be like 10, 12 problems this data science team is trying to tackle. I think as long as it's core to the business, whereas BlackBuck it's about marketplace algorithms, those are core to the fundamental business which you're building, then I think it'll be fine.
So that's why I say in a given time, it's always good to be under pressure to solve things. And that's good in a way.
Yeah. And it helps us keep it iterative, right? You need to go have the first algorithm, set the baseline, then keep improving upon it, right? You're just not starting with the most, trying to design the most complex algorithm as V1, right? You keep it iterative and keep working.
And would you also suggest to entrepreneurs that keep looking out for gaps? Because as a data scientist, you see a lot of opportunities and gaps.
Gaps as in terms of...
in terms of operations itself, things that you haven't solved already that can be solved later.
You to keep well, I think it's about knowing which problems to solve, right? As I said, where can data, and you have to have that some amount of intuition. It is a problem which manually approach will not work, right? Because at a certain scale, you cannot assimilate it manually, right? At that point, the number of combinations, number of permutations, only an algorithm or a data-driven algorithm can solve. So you have to have that intuition that this is a strategic problem. Like for example, if I have to say which network to enter next, you don't want a data scientist to do it, right? There's not enough data. But if you're talking about algorithms, like you're talking about marketplace algorithms, pricing and routing, manually trying to solve it is not going to work. So you need to know what is a system which is better automated and what is a decision making which for now I don't need a data scientist.
Interesting. That's been a great, interesting conversation, guys. I must tell you that if you become a data scientist, you're more of a composer, you're an orchestrator. You can change lives, you can change your life. Don't think about the payment, but you can change many lives, right?
Yes.
Right. On that note, thank you, Deepak. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks. It's a pleasure.
Guys, write him on LinkedIn.
Yep.
You can,
Look
right?
forward. Yes, please do.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again. It was wonderful. A lot of hard